Bob Melvin and AJ Preller. They responded to Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal's big piece that was put out this week about AJ Preller, Bob Melvin, the disconnect, major disconnect, worst kept secret in baseball, one of the worst kept secrets, that they don't get along, they don't see eye to eye, and Bob Melvin responded. I'm going to get to Bob Melvin first, and then I will get to AJ Preller. Bob was asked about, has he been told like he's not returning in 2024? He gave that response. So here is this via 97.3 The Fan.
Do you expect to return? Have you been told that you will return next season?
I'm doing my job like I always have until someone tells me different, and I have not been told different.
There was another in-depth report today in The Athletic about just the cohesion in the organization. Can you speak to the relationship that you have with AJ Preller?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think he said it well in the fact that, we get along fine, but we're going to have our differences of opinion, and I think a lot of times that's healthy in trying to get to the right spot. And when you're not performing well, sometimes you're going to have some differences in opinion.
Are there philosophical things within this organization or differences of opinions that are holding the players back? Since they're the ones
holding players back?
Yeah, is there something that is not jiving in the organization that is affecting the play on the field?
So
you haven't seen any of this dysfunction or lack of leadership or anything like that?
No, I mean, in last year, guys were being celebrated for being leaders. They're doing the same things this year. We're just not performing well. Everybody has to look for a reason to why we're not performing well. That's jobs of writers. So I respect that.
All right. So there's Bob Melvin. So I thought his response to the article was like, yeah, so AJ and I, we get along fine. But really? Do you get along fine? I want you to get along great. I mean, isn't it possible in life, like you get along great with someone, but you disagree with some of the opinions that they have? You disagree with how, like, let's say you're with a coworker, you love that person, you get along great with that person, but there's some things that you disagree on about how things should be run in the company, how you can get things done more efficiently, stuff like that, right? How can you be better, more productive, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of what I want here with the GM, president of baseball ops, manager relationship. Not, we get along fine. That kind of like confirms, yeah, I mean, these in-depth pieces that are coming out. Ken Rosenthal and Dennis Lin, it's not like they spent 2 hours working on this and put it out. No, this probably took weeks of work about the relationship, talking to a bunch of different people inside the clubhouse, those that have worked with AJ in the past, those that are around it now. And it's coming out like this. And Ken Rosenthal, he's one of the, I know he messed up like the Scherzer thing with the Padres and said it was close and all that stuff. And so people probably think of Ken Rosenthal like that's what they think of, the first thing they think about Ken Rosenthal. But he still is one of the main people that people go to in baseball for information. So he's not just going to write something like this, like that paints Preller, the Padres, as bad as it does here, just to do it, just for clicks or whatever people want to say, right? No, like there's something to this. There is definitely something to this. It was written in 2021 about Preller and the Padres. It's written now. There's just a different cast of characters here, right? There's some other details that we didn't really know about, but yeah, it's pretty much the same stuff that was in 2021's article in this year's article. So yeah, doesn't seem like it's the best relationship between Bo Mel and Preller. Bob Melvin hasn't been told he's not returning in 2024, and I think that that's not going to happen until the end of the season. Yeah. I mean, the Padres, they're not mathematically eliminated yet. So why would Preller go tell Bob Melvin, yeah, we'll have you finish out the season, but you're not going to return? If I was told that, why would I want to even continue managing the team if I was told you're not returning? Like, so you already don't believe in me. You're already saying F you at the end of the season, essentially. So why would I continue doing this? So that's not going to happen until the season's over, I would think. And I don't expect Bob Melvin to stay at this moment. I don't know if it's going to be Bob Melvin. At least publicly, it's not going to be Bob Melvin saying, I'm stepping away and I'm not doing this. But it could happen. You could see the Padres release the two sides have decided to part ways, and it was really Bob Melvin doing it, and it just won't come out that it was really Bob Melvin doing it, at least from the Padres' point of view. Like, they won't say that. Or maybe it'll be AJ Preller saying, no, we're going to go in a different direction, and Peter Seidler still listens to AJ Preller, allows him to hire another manager, and that's just how it goes. But Bob Melvin here, he's doing it as best as he can. Like, professionally, he's being professional with the answers. Like, we get along fine. When things aren't going great, yeah, there's going to be differing points of view. Like, that's just how it's going to be. And he's kind of agreeing with AJ. Like, yeah, it's sometimes it's a good thing to have the differing of opinions, the different thoughts. But I mean, I want to get inside Bob Melvin's head. Like, if he had a lie detector on, ask these questions, and like unfiltered after he's gone from the Padres, let's say it's like in a decade. I want that documentary on this year's team and what Bob Melvin was really thinking and how he really feels about AJ Preller. Because like, does Matt Williams, does he know, the third base coach, does he know truly how Bob Melvin feels about AJ Preller? I don't know. Maybe he doesn't, but I think he has a little bit better of a clue than we do, just reading reports here. I would be fascinated to see like a ESPN doc or MLB Network documentary, any documentary on this 2023 Padres team, and like getting them to sit down and actually give their real thoughts, like the Last Dance style, real thoughts. I don't care if you don't like that person, you hate that person, you give your thoughts, and we know that would be fascinating. So yeah, that was Bob Melvin. And talking about how, yeah, it's healthy and trying to get to the right spot, disagreeing sometimes. But it feels like it's not just disagree here and there. It feels like it's disagreeing on a lot of things, just like philosophical differences and how AJ Preller operates. Bob Melvin seems like he disagrees with that. And when that happens and, it feels like there's disagreement all the time, that's where it can become probably an issue. And there was that one player in the article from Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal that compared it to like a toxic relationship between parents, where the parents tell one kid something, the other one tells the kid something else. It's just like, who do I talk to? There's just not this great connection there. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens with Bob Melvin's future. AJ Preller, props to Marty Caswell here. Big props to Marty Caswell. This was not in a scrum like Bob Melvin usually does, talking to the media in the dugout. No, Marty Caswell, San Diego Sports 760, she got AJ Preller to talk. This was not on video. I was listening to Darren Smith, and on the show, Marty said it was a bad hair day. That was AJ's excuse for not being on video here, else I would show it. But no, this is AJ audio. You can find it on YouTube. And on YouTube, it's just pictures of AJ and the Padres and different things that Marty has been able to capture this season with this Padres team. But AJ talked to Marty Caswell. Marty Caswell asked some pretty good questions. But AJ, like, can someone count here how many times AJ says, It's a lot. It's a lot. I don't want you to drink. Please don't drink every time AJ says, because if you do, you're going to be pretty hammered, I would say. Here is AJ Preller talking to Marty Caswell. Again, I believe this was on the field before Tuesday's game, one-on-one, and here we go.
You still have games to play, but it feels that the autopsy on the 2023 Padres has already begun. A couple different articles out on the clubhouse, on the culture. Is there anything that you can address about how you feel about the culture of the Padres as it stands?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, like you mentioned, we still have baseball to be played, and like our focus is honestly winning tonight, and we know, at the end of the day, like 5.5 back, and it's going to be it's going to be a situation where we know it's a long shot to get in the playoffs, but honestly, it's been the biggest focus, is doing everything we can to give us a chance here down the stretch and to make it interesting. And when we get to the end of the year, we'll assess and go from there.
You have a lot of big dogs in that clubhouse. The Manny Machados, Juan Soto, Xander Bogaerts, Tatis. Did any of the reports about the clubhouse chemistry or the culture surprise you at all?
I mean, again, I think I think we've said it here. You need a lot of talented players if you're going to win. The teams that win championships have star players, and again, like I know those guys. Like we have a lot of good guys down there, a lot of guys that have won, a lot of leaders. I don't feel it's a situation where those guys are haven't gotten along this season, and that's why we're not in the top part of the standings. I really honestly don't feel that's the way. Just at the end of the day, we'll get to the end of the year, we'll talk about all different things, performance, how the pieces fit, how the roster was put together. Definitely there's always like some kind of, chemistry component of any team that you put together. But the guys like each other. I think some of that's been overblown, honestly. A lot of that's been overblown. I think like all the attention on just Manny, like there's a lot of leaders in that clubhouse. Like we've never put the team together, looking at just one person and saying all the responsibilities on that one person to perform or to lead. And again, like we're just looking to win games here down the stretch and to make this thing interesting.
All right, pause. We'll get back to that. But Preller's like, yeah, we're just looking to make this thing interesting. We still have our focus on getting into the postseason here. Can we stop fooling around? Can we get some truth and honesty? Maybe he's just waiting till the end of the season, after the season, to have a press conference with the media and really be honest about the season or something. But I'm kind of getting the vibe here that like he doesn't think that there's problems here. Yeah, guys get along fine. It's overblown by the media, way overblown. Yeah, we're just trying to make things interesting here. That's really our only focus right now. Feels like he doesn't view like this stuff as being an issue, and he's going to get into his relationship with Bob Melvin here with Marty.
All season long, every baseball executive, all the analysts, the Jim Bowdens of the world kept waiting for the Padres to turn it around because there's too much talent on this roster. As you look back, any rhyme or reason as to why this team really never put it together until perhaps maybe when it's too late in September? Is there a roster construction problem when you look at it?
Again, like when we when we get to the end of the year, whenever that is, we'll have more of those conversations. We've obviously, like I think I've heard a lot of the same things all year, like from other executives and other baseball people. Hey, this team is too good a team. And I think those people usually have a pretty good idea, and I think some of the underlying numbers will tell you, like the team, that we expected to be playing in a better spot. But again, like I think one of the biggest things here in San Diego, the expectations have been raised. I think from day one we've talked about getting a team to where getting to the World Series and playing into October is the goal of the organization. I think that's a good thing. That's healthy. We embrace that. When we get to the end of the season, we'll have more conversation about like exactly the good and the bad, what went on this year, and hopefully that's an extended conversation. We pull something off here that's pretty special down the stretch, and we go from there.
Like again, he's like acting like the season's not over. I mean, come on, dude. Does he have to do that? I guess he like has to do that to try to sell tickets or try to keep hope on the fan base or something. Like he's like he has to be the only one that thinks like, no, we got a chance still. It's still happening. I mean, come on. You got Manny not having the surgery and thinking that this team can actually win every game the rest of the way. I'd like to have, some honesty here. Now, Manny at the same time, he did, say that he feels like the Padres, he has let down a lot of people in the city and all that. Like I like that accountability, but just take full accountability, not trying to trick yourself or trick fans or whatever into believing that you're actually still in it. Like the season is over. Preller talking about, yeah, we'll have those conversations when the season's over. It's like, shouldn't you already be thinking about this to get a head start on your plans for the off season? Because the season, it's not going to go anywhere.
Let's describe your relationship with Bob Melvin. Is it a close relationship? Is it a cordial relationship? Is it a good relationship?
Yeah, I think a lot. I've heard all different things. You guys don't talk. You don't speak. We talk, 5 times a day. I think we're constantly talking. Sharing ideas, sharing thoughts. I'm asking him his opinion all the time, and and getting his feedback and letting him run his club. So. I think from that point in time, we're always talking. We're always having conversation. We have a tight relationship, and at the end of the day, like he's expect him to continue to like lead this team here down the stretch, and hopefully get us in a playoff spot here in the last couple of weeks.
You can answer the bigger questions till the end of the season, so I'm not going to ask you. But are you?
Before we get back to that, just real quick, Notice AJ didn't talk about next year with Bob Melvin. All he did was talk about like looking forward to, possibly I'll replay it, possibly like getting into the postseason this year with Bob. He didn't mention anything about him being here for 2024. I'll play that again.
He's talking. We're always having conversation. We have a tight relationship, and at the end of the day, like he's expect him to continue to like lead this team here down the stretch, and hopefully get us in a playoff spot here in the last couple of weeks.
You know, answer the bigger questions to the end of the season, so I'm not going to ask you. But are you how are you a micromanager? Do you find that to be a somewhat accurate description?
Yeah, I think from my standpoint, like leadership style, I think we hire good people. I think you try to rely on those people. Yeah, I ask a lot of questions. I know that. Like, I think that's definitely a big part of like what we do is
define a lot of questions. When you say you hire people, you ask a lot of questions. Like you ask about.
I think to me at the end of the day, you always want to ask questions. Honestly, because you want to learn and you want to grow, and just kind of making sure, hey, like ultimately, throwing different topics on the table. And letting a group of talented people, talk about that. And you try to, like, from my position, you try to, hey, get into, this is some, not consensus, but this is, ultimately what we're, from a goal standpoint, this is what we're trying to accomplish. And then, setting some short-term goals and seeing if we can accomplish them.
All right. So there's AJ Preller admitting that, he asked a lot of questions. He didn't obviously directly say, yeah, I'm a micromanager, but yeah, ask a lot of questions. And that's kind of the sense that I got from the Dennis Lin, Ken Rosenthal piece, right? About, the doctor, or not doctor, what's his name? Mr. Tricker? Don Tricker. And his job is essentially to ask why. Do you know that commercial? I forget what commercial it is. I think it's for like a internet company or something. And they're in the store and they've got the little girl there and they're saying things about like the prices, and I think the Wi-Fi might be Cox. I don't know. And the girl is sitting there, and after every little thing, she's like, "Why? Why? Why? Why?" It was something about like printers, something like that. Why? That's like what this dude's job is. Just asking a bunch of questions. Why? Thought-provoking questions in that piece, right? Why? 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 Not giving solutions, but just asking why, essentially, is what I got there. So AJ, and I think a lot of people in the organization view that as, okay, why are you asking me about this? Let me do my job. I don't think I need your input on this. You're the GM. You're the president of baseball operations. Let us go do the job that you hired us to do. Don't give your input on this stuff. Let us do it. I was listening to Talking Baseball earlier today with Trevor Plouffe, and he kind of had that same thing, like, shut up, make moves at the deadline if we need them, make moves in the offseason, shut up, and let the coaches do their job. Like, you hired them. That's a coach's thing. The batting practice, right? The high velo machines and all that. That should be coaches. Let them do their job. And it feels like AJ, when things aren't going well, right? He kicks that thing into gear and he goes and tries to work harder than anyone else. In fact, does work harder than anyone else, is what I'm getting here from people. They're admitting in these articles, in these pieces, that, yeah, he works harder than anybody else. And if there is a guiding philosophy or, principle for this Padres team, right? It was in the article. Essentially, do more than everyone else at all times. And when you're the president of baseball operations and the GM, when it comes down to stuff on field level, the coaching staff, all that, I don't think that's the best thing to do, especially when you don't have a rookie manager. You put someone in charge and then allowed him to bring in people that also have been in charge in the past. And now you're still putting input into like coaching things, not roster moves. Like, hey, can I have your input on this? Or I think you should do this with the lineup, or I think this guy should get playing time. What do you think about this guy as a defensive replacement, or this matchup? What do you think about this guy playing for this matchup later this week? Not stuff like that, but like things that coaches should be doing. It seems like AJ, people or maybe people that he tells to do this get involved with that. And that seems like a problem. Like, trust, Peter Seidler, you know how he trusts AJ Preller a lot? AJ Preller needs to have the same trust that Peter Seidler has. I don't know if I've heard anyone else say that, but that's a connection. Like, that should be a clear connection for AJ. You know how much trust Peter Seidler puts in you, lets you do your thing, lets you pretty much make any move that you want to make, it seems like? Put that same trust that he has in you in your coaching staff. Bob Melvin, one of the best managers, most respected managers in baseball. Matt Williams, who's on the coaching staff, who has managed before. Mike Schilt, who you hired to bring into this organization, who has managed before, and you have him in the dugout all the time. Ryan Christensen, who is successful as the bench coach with Bob Melvin in Oakland with much less resources. Let them do their jobs. That's what it feels like the problem is. And so they're not connecting. It's pretty clear they're not connecting. Bob Melvin's being professional about it. We get along fine, admitting that they don't agree on everything. And I'm not saying you have to agree on everything. It just feels like they've crossed that line. There's a line there for a reason, and it feels like they've crossed that. That's my takeaway from Preller and from Melvin. My main takeaway from those two responding to that Athletic Dennis Lin, Ken Rosenthal report. Like, I don't know if I feel like it can be fixable, but it's not Bomel that has to change. It's going to be AJ that has to change.